She is in. Lillian is in. Marion is in. Yeah, I am testing a new microphone today. We keep pushing the limits to keep improving. You'll see it sort of looks like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise here today with all the computer screens and stuff. So yeah, we just try to keep making things better and better and better. So we're technical ups and downs, but we're winning, we're getting better. So okay, welcome. I'm glad you're in too. In the meantime, let me know, how did it go with your nose paintings? If I hear on the forum the guys were battling a little bit, but yeah, noses do take practice. It's some pretty subtle shading sometimes, so it does take some practice to get them nice and spot on. So I'll show you guys what I find the people battle the most with in a minute. Well, saying I'm looking chipper today. I'm always chipper. And Valweb is not having buffering. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you're having some a good signal there in South Africa tonight. And Claude says he's got the nose on the nose. Oh, that's good. And Val says, hello, Dennis. You can.
Hi, Val. Glad to have you on.
I'm not sure if you can hear that, but Dennis does say hello. Alright, what you can see is over here, I've got a screen where I can now see all the time what I'm broadcasting. And then over here, I've got the chat box now open permanently. And then on this screen over here, on the right hand side, is where I'll be demonstrating and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think we got better feedback and we won't get stuck on the face again. So we should be good to go. Alrighty. It seems like everybody's in and on and where they need to be. Hopefully you've got a nice big cup of coffee. So let's do an official welcome. Hello guys. Thank you for joining me for week 3 of the portrait course. Today we've got a little bit of theory to do. But after that we're going to be painting the mouth and teeth. It's going to be great fun. Lots of painting today. I'm raring to go. I hope you are too. So the first thing we need to do is I want to give just a little bit of feedback about last week's class. Just a few little points where I've noticed the guys can improve, or the little sticking points where the common mistakes were. So if Dennis can go over to my canvas for me, please. Put this one down. This one's obviously now more refined. Get in over there. Okay. The biggest thing that I found the guys making is the lost and the found lines. It's really important. If you look at the nose, remember we chatted, there's only 4 possible places where you can get your lost and your found lines. Actually 5. That is here by the nostrils, you got 2 found lines there. Sometimes you have a found line on these edges. Sometimes only 1. It depends on the angle, right? And then depending on the angle, if the person has turned their face to the side like this, then you'll get a found line on the bridge of the nose. Here and here are no found lines. I've seen quite a few with hard lines on here where the bridge of the nose meets the cheek. No found lines there, guys, so keep softening that. And then over here, you'll seldom, it has to be a really unusual nose before you're going to get a found line over here. I think that was for me the biggest place where I found the guys were having a little bit of a problem. So again, it's just a case of keep refining those edges where you know there's a lost line. Just keep smoothing it over until that line disappears on you. Now, the best way of checking yourself is stand back and see, is that line gone? Because you'll find if you're sitting close to the canvas, then it looks like the line is gone, but you stand back, then it sort of appears again. So keep standing back and look at your canvas from viewing distance. Then you'll really be able to see whether your lost lines are really lost. Okay. Alrighty, let's go over to the screen. I've got a little bit of a presentation today. I don't want to go too much theory. Today what we're going to chat about is what photographs make a good portrait painting. And then also we're going to chat just a little bit more about the composition of your actual portrait itself. Now there's 6 different portrait types that you can make. The first one is a full body portrait like this, where you have the entire length of the body inside the portrait. Now, in a portrait like this, you'll find that the head itself, the entire head, is the focal point on in the portrait. The next type is your torso type. Now, that there is when you've got from either just below the waist upwards or just above the waist upwards. That gives you a torso portrait. Again, it's the entire face is your focal point. But you'll also find that the eyes do tend to attract more attention. Then you get the head and shoulders. That's when we've got the full head in view and a little bit of the shoulders. You can also eventually get the bust in as well. That will still be classified as a head and shoulders portrait. Then we've got a head portrait. That's when you've got the head and the neck and a suggestion of the shoulders. If you don't have the neck in, then or if you don't want the shoulders in, then you need to dump the neck as well. So you'd have to zoom quite a lot in. Well, I'll show you an example of that a little later. The cropped head is when we don't have the full face in the picture, like you can see over here. So that's quite a fun one. And then the final variety is called an extreme close-up. So that's when you've really zoomed in tightly on just 1 or 2 features of the face. Let's say maybe the eye, or just the eye and a piece of the nose or something like that. So that's not really a portrait, hey? It's more a feature study. But it's still a painting of the face, so it's still technically a portrait painting. Alright, where you position the objects is really important. Now what you want to do is, let's get the best positioning, there we go. What you want to do is divide your canvas up into thirds. So those of you that have followed my composition lesson will have heard this before, but I'm going to go over it again to make sure that it's right there and fresh in the memory. You divide your canvas up into thirds, and you see what happens. It forms a little box like this. Now you want your focal point, ideally, with a portrait, they'll tend to end up on one of these 2 top corners over here. But those corners are the ideal place to place the focal point. So if you've got a full body portrait, then you'd want to put the head around here or around here. Now obviously it's not always possible, so if you can't do that, then you'd put it somewhere on the line over there. Okay. With let's say head and shoulders, you'd have the shoulders maybe over here, the neck and the face. You'd have the eyes either on close to the corner or on this line over here. That's the ideal place to put it. if you put your focal point in the center, it's too much in the middle, and your eye doesn't know where to look next, and that confuses the eye. If you put it outside of this box, over here, then it's too much to the side, and it becomes difficult to look at. Again, as with most rules in art, you can sometimes break those rules and get away with it, and it will look good, but most of the time you'll find you'll be able to stick to those rules and get a good composition. Alright, then the next concept is called looking room, and it works like this. If you've got a model that you're busy painting, and in the picture that model is looking, say, to the right hand side, then what you want to do is leave space on the right hand side of the canvas. So in other words, you're leaving room for the model to look into. If you look at this photograph on the left hand side over here, see what's happened? He's got no looking room. It almost feels like he's being all boxed in, or like he's doing window shopping. So, what you want to do is just leave that extra little space over there. Okay, let's go on and take a look at the full body portraits. Let's get a zoom in over there like that. When you're doing a full body portrait, what you don't want to do is have the subject facing you flat on like that. I think you agree. If you look at this photo over here, it's just a little cheesy, right? Now the reason is because the body's facing straight at you, it becomes too imposing. So there are times when you can have the body facing directly at you, but because the body is taking up now so much real estate and is so prominent, the person that's inside the clothes almost becomes secondary, and the clothes become your focal point. So in a photograph like this, it was maybe the gentleman's first day at work, so they wanted to take a photograph of his new suit that he's going to work in. So that would be the idea behind the whole photograph, and not necessarily to take a photograph of himself. So what you'd ideally do is you'd rotate your subject so he or she stands to the side and then turns their head to face the camera, like in this photograph over here. You see how much more friendlier it looks? It's a lot more pleasing to look at. Now, with this portrait over here, what I would do is I'd move these two, the couple up a little bit to the right hand side to give them a little bit more looking room over here. It's too symmetrical on each side. Here you can see two, oops, see where you disappear to. Here you can see two examples of where the subject is facing towards you. And you see you've got that, in those photographs you've tried to create that nice imposing kind of look. So that's the idea here. So you'd have that, it works when the subject is facing directly at the camera. The cropping of your photographs when you're doing full body portraits, you can obviously crop the scene to fit better in your canvas and to make a better picture. Don't be shy to do that, but when you do, just be careful. There are a few rules when you do crop your photographs. For example, this one over here, you'll notice that the mom and the daughter's feet have been cut off. Now, you don't want to do that. By cutting off the feet, you've lost the grounding of your two subjects in the picture. So you can paint this, it's going to make a beautiful painting, but unfortunately what's going to happen is, because they're not grounded, you're going to have to use your artist license and add their feet back in your painting. Let's zoom in here a bit more. I see John D has just joined us. Hi John, how are you doing? Welcome. Alright, so let's say you do want to crop off the feet. Then what you need to do is you need to crop off the knees as well. Your knees and your feet sort of, you think of them as a joined item. So if you take a look here on the left hand side, it's been cropped to below the knee. And again, your subject seems to just hang in the air. It's almost like she's been amputated or something like that. So crop above the knee if you want to lose the feet. You see how much better that looks? The same thing goes with hands and elbows. Hands and elbows go together as well. So if you're going to show the hand, show the elbow too. If you see the elbow, make sure you can see the hand as well. If you take a look here on the left hand side, see this whole piece of the arm just sort of seems to be disjointed. It's quite bizarre. So if you're going to show the hands like that, zoom out to make sure you can get the elbow in as well. Here's an example where we've done a different cropping. If you take a look over here, again, just the hands are cut off and you can see the elbow. See, it just suddenly, it somehow looks wrong. Those arms just disappear into nowhere. So either zoom out so that you can see the hands. See, that makes a lot more sense. Or zoom in so that you've lost the elbows. And that just gives you a better framing of your photograph. The same thing would go when you've got your torso portraits. The bottom one over here is the original photograph. Because the gentleman's pointing, so because you've zoomed out, it works. You can see maybe he's pointing at the crowd or something like that. But if we had to just crop off his hands and you can still see the elbow, you see, you sort of, your eye tends to follow a line. So now you follow that line on the arm and it, I don't know, just disappears into nowhere. So it makes no sense. So then if you want to crop it in after the elbow and look how nice and tight it is, and it gives you, there's nothing of that half a piece of arm that's pulling your eye out of the picture. Then don't be scared to play around and adjust things in your portrait. On the left hand side is our original portrait. So take a look, you've got this patron sitting inside the restaurant, and I don't know, he just seems to draw way too much attention. Your eye keeps flipping back between our waiter, who's the focal point, and the patron sitting there having his lunch or his breakfast. So what I've done is I've actually added a reflection onto the window, like you can see on the right hand side, and that's just hidden the patron, so you can still half make out that there is there. So that tells you it's not an empty restaurant. But with the reflection there, it's taken the attention away from him and ensured that it's gone back to our main character. Then let's say this was a photograph I'd taken on holiday and I wanted to remember what restaurant it was or anything. So yeah, I've added in the restaurant name on the window. Don't be shy to do things like that. It just helps you sort of tell a story in your painting or in your portrait. So now I know it's Giovanni's restaurant and not a French or whatever. It's an Italian restaurant. So that's just helped me tell the story by adding a few things in. The head and shoulders type portrait is a real classic formal type of portrait. So you can see real famous with kings and stuff. Because you've got this extra bit of body in here, it also helps create that bit of an imposing, important look to it. But they can be fun as well. If you take a look at this one over here, that's certainly not a formal portrait at all. It's a nice, fun, friendly portrait. What I do like about this portrait over here is notice how the cameraman has actually bent now down to get more of the lady's facing. So again, use interesting angles and things as well to make sure that you get the best possible portrait. Here's two portraits that I want to chat about to explain one of the concepts that you're going to use in composition to make sure that your focal point is the focal point. So to make sure you're directing the person's eye towards your focal point. Now it works like this. Your eye will follow a line. So if I take a look at this left-hand picture over here, this sister's nose over here, your eye is going to follow that line over there. This sister over here, you're going to follow the line formed by her nose over there. Here this arm forms a line. You see, you're going to curve that, you're going to curve around and follow that arm over there. You're going to follow the boy's arms. The lines in the shirt, even this little red collar seems to frame this little boy's face. So all the lines in this picture are pushing your eye towards the little boy's face. And that gives you the little boy's face, makes the little boy's face become the focal point in that portrait. Now let's move on to these two ladies over here. Again, we're going to follow, here's the line on her shirt, her arms. All these lines seem to be pointing up towards our back model's head. So even though she's a lot more in shadow and stuff, she's become the focal point of this portrait over here. Now there's only two lines that don't sort of lead your eye towards her face, and that is the headline here of our second model. So that's actually a good thing, because all the lines are leading you here, and now suddenly you've got this one breaking line which helps you attract more attention to her as well. So because she's in more in light, and she's got a contrasting line or flow line in the photograph, that ensures that both of them get an equal amount of attention. Then you'll also see that the line on the light is also a contrasting line, which is a great one, because if you take a look, it seems to sort of run at right angles to all the other lines, and that's what happens is our eye keeps moving up and up and up in this photograph. So your eye would tend to just carry on going up and eventually out of the photo. So this little right angled line formed by the light has sort of formed a stopper which stops our eye going out of the picture. Now obviously I don't think this was quite planned like that. I think it's just by chance, but it doesn't matter. Happy accidents, not a problem at all. Okay, then there's another thing that we can use to check the composition of our portraits, and that's called using a notan. So in other words, with a notan, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the lights and the darks in the picture. So if I'm going to take this little picture over here, I'm not going to zoom in on it because we're going to look at it closer in a minute. You squint and sort of look through your eyelashes. Then it gets rid of all the detail, and all you see is the big bright and the dark areas on the picture. So you can see I've done it over here. Our figures form the lighter areas, and there's a little bit of sky holes over there as well, which form a lighter area, and the buildings in the background have formed the darker areas. So by drawing a notan, what you can do is look at it lets you see the shapes in your scene. So here I can see I've got all sorts of interesting little shapes. It's going to make a really great portrait. The only part I don't like is over here. You see this? The light in the background and the light in this little girl here on the left hand side are fused together. So I'd like to frame her a little bit. So the only way to do that is to obviously now dump some of this light here on the left hand side. So let's do that and see what it looks like. By doing that, you'll see what's happened. I've got this big white figure over here and then a bunch of little ones over there, and it almost feels like this white is making the whole picture lean over towards the right hand side. It feels heavy here on the right hand side, right? So we can't dump all of this white that we've got over there. So we'll need to put some of it back. So what I'll do is I'll make as though I've just moved up 2 steps to the left. So I'm seeing a little bit more of the building and a little less of the light. So let's go and put a little bit of that light back in again. You see, there I've done it. Just added that little bit of a sky hole over there, and that just seems to have balanced this quite nicely. So what I've done is I've photoshopped the original photo and added this little piece in over here. Now see what's happened? Now that I've got this nice dark area behind this little girl, look how beautifully she's framed as well. So now I've got all sorts of little interesting shapes, all different sized shapes. And I've still got my little white sky hole over there to balance this large area of white over here. So that's given me good composition. Alrighty, next up is your head and shoulder portraits. Now with this type of composition, you'll find that your subject is really zoomed in quite close by now. So here you can actually start to crop off pieces of the head. Notice in this picture, the top of the head has been cropped off, but it doesn't bother. It still looks fine. With the previous ones, it's very difficult to do that and get away with it, and it looks good. But the minute you get to head and shoulders and closer, you can start cropping off pieces of the head, and it will still look right. But now you can't just lob off anything. There's only certain pieces that we can chop off and it will still look right. So what you can do is you can chop off the unimportant pieces. For example, in this portrait over here, when you're looking at this, you're going to look at the lady's eyes, nose and mouth, right? Those are the 3 most important features in the portrait. So you couldn't lob one of them off. But I can chop off the top of the head or the back of the head and even all the way up to the ear. I can lob all that off. It's unimportant. That's not where I'm looking when I look at this portrait. In your manual, I've asked the question, in this portrait over here, what is the focal point? I'm not going to spoil your fun and answer it now, but give it a think over in the meantime. Also, when you start getting towards head and shoulders and closer portraits, you can start really playing around with all sorts of funny things or interesting things like changing your camera angle. I've done that over here. And here as well, your vantage point. Let's see if we can maybe just zoom out a little bit more. So use interesting vantage points of your model. This one's from above. That also makes a really dramatic portrait, doesn't it? And here I've actually rotated the camera. Well, I haven't, the person that's taken this photograph has. So you've rotated the camera. And again, you see how interesting it makes it look? It's really great. So don't be scared to play around with things like that. It keeps it interesting. Now, when we get to the head portraits, so in other words, you've lost the main shoulders or the bust area, be careful of doing this. When you can see the neck, you just suggest a little bit of the shoulders. If you don't, you see it almost looks like the head has been amputated. It sort of hangs in the air. It's the same situation like we had with the feet. So if you're going to show the neck, just suggest a little bit of the shoulders. That just helps to settle the head on the body. If you're not going to show the neck, then zoom right in, like this. You see, if even a little bit of the chin at the bottom has been chopped off, and that's fine. Because you zoomed in so close, your full attention is here on the eyes and then nose and mouth. So the chin is really absolutely unimportant and secondary in such a close-up zoomed portrait. Here the photographers played around with colors, so, and again different angles. And don't be scared to try interesting lighting as well. That could make a pretty cool painting, I think. Real fun painting, that one. And then if you've got Photoshop or fancy lenses on your camera, don't be scared to use them as well. Doesn't that just look absolutely stunning? Alrighty, next zoom in is when we don't get the full face in the picture anymore, so we call that the cropped head portrait. Now, with a cropped head portrait, because you're not seeing the whole face, there's no way you're going to get a formal look on it. They always end up being fun and vibrant, vibey kind of paintings. So just go ahead and use your imagination, throw all the rules out the book, and just go ballistic, go crazy, do all sorts of interesting things. And as you can see, you can get some really nice effects. Look there, the face is actually a secondary part of this painting, but it's still a portrait. Look at this one over here. Wouldn't that just make a great painting? Yet most of the head has been lobbed off. Awesome. Alrighty. Then the last one is extreme close-ups. I think we chatted about that already. It's not really a portrait, that's more just a study. So what I want us to do now is go and see how Renoir used to do his portraits. And if he also used to use the different methods and sort of stuck to the rules we've used. Okay, so here we've got a full head and shoulders, pretty standard. Here we've got the torso. But notice it's been cropped below the waist, so perfect. And he's got the full arms, so he's got the hands in, so he's kept the elbow in. So yeah, and he's left good looking room over here. So far he's stuck to the rules. Here's a full body, left looking room, the feet are in, so yeah, that's great. Here on the right hand side you can see he's used interesting vantage points, turned the models, let them do other poses than just standard formal ones. So yeah, you like to play around and that was great. You did get it wrong every now and again though. If you take a look at this one here on the right hand side, notice that the looking room is on behind the model, so that's not quite right. You should have moved the model just a little bit more to the right hand side. So, but yeah, generally Renoir got it right and he did a great job with it. Right, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with the composition stuff today. I've gone into it in a lot more detail in your notes, so I will be handing out that link at the end of the class. Today we're painting the mouth, so that's another step up from the nose. So you've had some good practice with the nose. A lot more fine shadings over here again. So again, lots of shading practice that we're going to get today. Now, just want to quickly remind you of what we call everything so that when I am painting and I name something, then you know what I'm talking about. This little laugh line over here is called the furrow. Then your kissing lips are the top and the bottom lip. Above that, you've got the upper lip and the lower lip. Then obviously you've got the teeth and the gums, so there's nothing funny. And this here and over here is the corner of the mouth. Alright. Then the last little feature is here. We're going to go over to our little model, our dummy model shortly. This little piece, this dent here in between or directly underneath the nose in the center is called the fulcrum. So we'll be chatting about that shortly. Alright, let's zoom out again. Guys, as usual, if you've got questions, just pop them in the chat box. I think let's put him over there, right? Like that. Okay, when it comes to painting the mouth, get my plane mask as well. The first thing we want to do is take a look at the planes. So let's put our mask on our model again and take a look at how the light affects each little piece of our model or of our mouth. In this case, the light is coming from the right hand side. So let's start by the top lip. You notice you got 1, 2, and then here by the forearm, 3, 4 different planes. There, 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 and there. So each one of those planes is going to catch the light differently. Light, light, dark, dark. So notice this side and this side is light and dark as you'd expect. But because your fulcrum is concave, your highlight and your shadow side flip around. So look out for that. That's one of the secrets to painting the fulcrum correctly. Now let's move down to the top lip. You see you've basically got 2 planes here, one here and one over here. Now because your top lip is standing at an angle like that, it tends to be in shadow. Now, even though it's in shadow, this will be a little bit lighter, and that'll be a little bit darker because it's further away from the light. And because it goes in like that, the front area is going to be slightly lighter, and the inside is going to be slightly darker. Your bottom lip is 3 different planes, there, there, and there. Generally, you can notice, even here, you can see it's roughly the same tonal value, but it does tend to go darker in those little corners over there. I will demonstrate that shortly. Your lower lip, again 3 planes. Now something interesting happens over here with these 3 planes, and that is this centerpiece, which you would expect to be light, middle and dark. Often you'll find that this center plane here is the darkest of these 3 planes, even though it's facing a little bit more towards, or seems to be facing a little bit more towards the light. The reason for that is because our light is coming from the top. At the moment I've got lots of ambient light here, so we don't really see it as well. But generally your light would be coming from the top, right? So this here is actually, because of its angle, is actually pointing more away from the light than that one. You see, this one is more upright, and that's at a more of an angle like that. So in actual fact, this side is pointing more away from the light. Then you also find that there's another thing that happens with that. Let's lift up our mask. And that is here on your lip itself, because your lips or forward up off the face, they sort of, what do we call that? They come forward. Yes, protrude. There's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Dennis. Because your lips protrude off the face, your lower lip has got to meet the bottom lip, right? So here you often get a little dent, and that dent also, because it's really extended a lot, it's casting a shadow onto this area over here. So that's why you'll find that here it's darker, and then here it flattens out, here it flattens out, so you don't get it so dark over there as well. Take a look on the fulcrum. You see, those little heights over there tend to be lighter, and then you've got your little highlight and your shadow in that side over there. Alright. When your mouth is closed, and in the corners of the mouth the same thing happens. Maybe just zoom in here on my hands for me, please. What I want to show is that little inside piece. What I've done is I've put my hands together. Now you'll notice here on the inside, there where my top hand and my bottom hand meet, you see you've got a real dark little line over there. So that's what happens. The same thing happens when your lips meet. So you've got that dark line over there. But now that line is not a found line. It's actually a lost line with a shading to each end. If you look carefully, you'll notice that you can't see where my top hand and my bottom hand end. It's just too dark in there. And then it quickly fades lighter on the top hand and lighter on the bottom hand. So that's how you get that little lips touching piece. And in the corner of your mouth as well, because the light can't get in there, it goes darker and darker towards the inside of those corners. Okay. I'll push them out again. Alrighty, I think I've covered the main parts that we need to look out for with the face. Let's just take a look. Val is asking a question. She says, I've been told the philtrum is extremely important in portraits, as no two are identical. So, can this be the deciding factor in how close a likeness you attain? Is this correct? Well, yes. As we start painting, I'm going to really highlight the things that you have to concentrate a lot on to get a good likeness. And yeah, the philtrum is one of them. It's put that over there. Hey guys, help me. Our friend over here hasn't got a name. Throw a few names in the chat box. Let's give old snap ahead over here a name. Who does he look like to you? Let me know. Let's pop a few names there, and see if we can christen him today. Alrighty. Let's go over to my canvas for a second. Okay, here's the demo that I've done for the manual. Now, there are a few things that you need to really concentrate on if you want to create a likeness. Now, the first one is, remember we've got our nose over here, and your nose throws the cast shadow. We chatted about that last week. Without that cast shadow there, you're gonna battle to get your upper lip correct. Now, each person's philtrum, the one person's philtrum will be more, I want to put the kettle on while I'm busy, so chatting. Each person's philtrum is more or less prominent than the other. So, Val, yes, you're 100% correct. You've got to get that philtrum correct. Otherwise, you're not going to get a likeness. Another thing is the lips themselves. Obviously, some people's lips are broader and some are narrower. And the angles. So you've got to look really carefully to see the highlights and the shadows. If you get that basic shape of the mouth correct, and get your highlights and your shadows in the correct places, then you'll do good. The teeth, yeah, people really battle with the teeth. I'll show you today how to paint nice realistic teeth. It's easier than you think. And then on the lips itself, you'll find that the lips have got cracks in them. Now again, everybody's got more or less prominent cracks, and it also depends on what's the mouth doing. If your mouth is smiling, you're not going to see those cracks as much as, let's say, when the mouth is puckering up to give a kiss. So look out for those cracks, because how prominent those cracks are is also going to tell you whether you're going to get a good likeness. Alright, Linda says we should call our model Hector, and Marion says he looks like Bertie, and John says he looks like a Paul, and Linda is also saying maybe Siobhan for a girl. Well, you see, this is a boy, so I have got a girl coming, but it was supposed to be 3 weeks ago. The guys dropped me. So when she comes, we'll christen her. We'll give her some name as well. And Claude says Paleface Clark. Nah, we'll give no another one. Alright guys, I'm going to just quickly make myself a coffee. My mouth is a bit dry from chatting before I start painting. So throw a few questions in the air. Let me answer them for you before we actually start painting. Okay, Linda says it's not whatever it's called, Siobhan. Oh, okay. And Mary says we should call him Henry. Henry the Eighth. Right, we're gonna have to get somehow we're gonna have to get to a name that's that a few people suggest. Nothing like a good cup of coffee in the morning. To give these classes, we wake up at about 5 a.m. to get ready and everything. But now, obviously, in the meantime, you don't want to drink too much coffee, otherwise you'll be jumping up and down here because you can't run off to the loo while the class is on. So that's why we sort of hold out for the coffee until the class is on. So by that time, we're really getting caffeine withdrawal symptoms and are super thirsty and everything. We got ourselves nice paint basket mugs, and Dennis forgot his at home, so he's going to have to get stuck with the blue one today. There we go, Uncle Dennis. Now you got a coffee and a water. Alright, I'm going to put my reference picture back again. How many of you guys have pre-mixed your colors to paint with? Okay, we've got a George and a Peter Pan and a Sid and another Henry. And you also likes Henry. So far Henry's winning the vote, guys. Alright, let's go over to here. Onto the canvas for me, please. Yes. Alright, so what I've got here, let's swap that around. I've got my reference photo that I'm going to be referencing from. Then I've done my drawing work. Because if you take a look at the mouth, we haven't really got any hard lines. The only hard lines that we've got is here on the edges of the teeth. So what you've got to do then is look for transition points. So transition points would be where the top lip ends and the upper lip starts, the bottom lip ends and the lower lip starts, where these teeth meet. Again, you'll find that they're not hard lines, they lost lines there. Here where the gums meet, and then obviously I've just suggested a little bit of the nose and the edge of the face just to help place him. But here, it's same in the furrow. You'll find some people's furrow is a lot more pronounced than others. So I've drawn the line in, and then as I'm painting, I'll gradually lose that line as I go along. Now, same as before, to make sure that I don't lose my lines because they're all lost lines and stuff, I've used my baking paper and I've put him down directly onto my drawing and I've traced him off, popped him on with a packaging tape. Then I've done another thing, because now you'll find you'll tend to hang like that. So what I've done now is I've added an extra piece of packaging tape over here, but I've stuck him on from that side. So the sticky side is over here. And I've folded a piece over to, now I've got a tab. So look what's happened. While I'm painting, I can just curl this out the way and I'm actually just sticking him into the back of my easel. So this way I'm not getting my baking paper flapping all over the show. So that's how I keep mine out the way. I'm not sure how you guys have been doing it. So I think we can take that off now. On my canvas, I've obviously drawn in my lines a lot darker so that you can see them on the video. When you draw your lines in, draw them in as light as possible. I've used my watercolor pencil, and as you can see, I've used the pink to, I suspect that one is going to disappear the best when I paint over it. And I've used yellow for the teeth because, yeah, white pencil wouldn't work on there, would it? Hi Tony, nice to have you join us. Alright, let's move over to the palette and take a look at our color mixers. And we're on an hour, so I'm going to have to really move it when we do the painting. I was kind of hoping the presentation would only take, say, 20 minutes. Famous last word. Alrighty. Done is, I've just looked and compared with my photograph. Maybe you just stay there. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Pat was asking a good question on the forum, and that was about the actual, the color mixing itself. So, what I do, I can just zoom out for me, please. Yeah, like that, that's great. So, what I do when I'm comparing my colors is I'll mix on the palette, and then I'll pick up some paint, and I'll sit back, and I'll hold it. Let's say I want to mix this area's color over here. So then I'll pick up some on the knife, as flat as I can on the blade. Then I'll sit back, and I'll just, closing one eye, I'll hold the knife over that area over there. And then I'll try and see what color is missing from my mix. In other words, does the color here on the actual screen itself look bluer, redder, oranger, whiter, lighter, brighter? So, and then I'll use my color mixing rules and whatever I can see is missing to adjust from there. Yes, your knife must be at the same angle. So if I'm doing this, I keep my knife parallel to the screen. I have sometimes found that depending on where your light source is coming from, sometimes if you do that, the paint on your knife tends to reflect. If you got that reflection, just turn it ever so slightly, just until the reflection disappears. You can actually see it on the knife at the moment. See how the knife is reflecting? I just rotate it just until that reflection disappears. Because reflection is obviously not your true color. Just enough for that to disappear, and then you're A for away. So Pat, I hope that has answered your question as far as how I like to compare my colors. I find if you right up on the screen and you're holding it right here by the screen, your screen is too bright, and so you get, it pulls your eye, you get those optical mixes. But by sitting back and just eyeballing it with one eye like that, and I also tend to keep my arm at arm's length when I'm checking it, because then I know I'm not having distance problems like that, which also again you'll find is brighter and it appears darker, brighter and darker. So I keep it at full length, one eye closed, and I compare it with the area on the screen that I'm working from. If I'm not working from the screen and I'm working from a photograph, I do exactly the same thing. With a photograph, you can find you can get closer because your screen is physically radiating the color out, so it's emitting light. So that's why you have to sit a bit back. With the photo, you can get a hang of a lot closer, but usually I put my photograph up over there and I just eyeball it like that. Alright, so let's zoom back to our palette, please, Dennis. The colors that I've used this time again worked out to burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, and French ultramarine. So the same colors for last week's model, but just in different proportions this time, that's all. These colors here were the four main tonal values that I saw around the areas of the face. I mainly looked at the upper and lower lip and compared my colors from there, because that's your main face color. These guys over here are the colors that I've mixed for the lips. So I've mixed, this here is the main lip color on the bottom. This here was the shadowy color on the underside of the top lip. And then this here was the darkest color that I could see in the corner of the mouth. And right over here on this side, I've mixed the teeth colors, but we'll chat about that a little bit later. Alright, so I'm going to start off with these guys over here, and just same as normal, block in the basic colors in the basic places where I see them. So let's start with my middle color. See that see that around here. Nothing there. Again, all I'm looking for is those areas of colors, same as normal. Just find those little areas of similar color, and then just block them in from there. This is that color. When I'm painting, you'll see I'm often cleaning my brush on the kitchen towel. That's really important. It just keeps your colors nice and sharp. Yeah, top of chin. And as usual, don't be scared to adjust your colors as you go along. You see one area is maybe a little bit redder or a little bit lighter or something like that. Go for it, adjust it. That's quite a lot. Your main colors that you mixed are sort of just your main colors. But you always get these other little variations in between. So don't be shy to mix those different variations. Peter suggesting Rufus McGee for the portrait or for our model. Maybe doing this blocking in, Dennis can just zoom in on the model again, and let's see if he doesn't maybe look like somebody famous, so we can have a good giggle at. I'm not going to do too much effort with the nose. I'm just sort of going to just suggest the nose here, just to help place the nose on the face, or to help place the mouth on the face, I should say. Alright, I think we do have a few lighter spots. I'm going to pick up some white and just directly, maybe Dennis can zoom in on the palette again, please. This here's the lightest version that I've been using up to this point. I feel I can go a little bit lighter at a few places, so I'm going to just pick up some of this, or even just use whatever's still left on the brush from what I've been painting, and I'll just pick up some white and do a quick little impromptu mix like that. So I don't need lots of it. If I find that I do need a lot of it, then what I'll do is I'll stop and I'll physically mix a little pile. But I can see there's just a few little places where I'm lighter, but I'll just quickly do an impromptu mix like that. Let's keep the thing still a little bit lighter. I'm going to lighten him up there a little bit more still. Like that. And then let's place the highlight of the nose, probably around there. Yeah. And around there. And again, I'm changing colours, so I'm just going to give the brush a wash. Get the darker area on this plane over here. Okay. Right. And I also see it's similar tonal value around here. So just after the fulcrum, so you got one plane, fulcrum, another plane. Just in that area over there, there's not too much of it over there. And I'm working all the way up to the lips. At this stage, I'll make them found lines. As we go along, we'll soften things up. Isn't it nice and reassuring knowing that you've got your little baking paper mask that you can constantly check yourself? How many of you guys have been using the baking paper? Lord, I've been wearing an earring since 1987. It's become my trademark already. Okay, so Mary says she's been using the baking paper. That's awesome, isn't it? It's just so easy. There's no way that you're going to lose the lines or lose the likeness from your person by using the baking paper, because you're always able to make sure that your features are in exactly the right place. what I'm doing now is I'm just mixing up a real dark version here. I'm just using my three colors, almost getting myself a bit of a, let's say, a purpley black. So I've kept it on the red side because I know my face itself has got lots of crimson in it. So I've kept it on the red side. It's just so that yeah, but the cast shadow on the nose, this here is not quite dark enough yet. So I needed a darker version to be able to mix in with him to darken him up. So I just mixed up a quick little pile there, and that's given me a darker version which I can use for my impromptu mix. And we'll go around there. This whole area here with the nostril ring and the forehead, you can see to be quite dark in there. As I'm painting, can you see, does it make sense where I'm putting down the colors? Can you see the method behind what I'm doing? I'll zoom out here now again to compare. I have asked Dennis to just zoom out every now and again so you guys can see the reference picture as well. Okay, John D is saying he uses Brisk Transtrace. I'll have to look into that one. I'm not aware of what that is. Okay, Dennis knows what it is. He says it's a handy gadget. Is it a gadget? Or is it just a publication paper? There you got that little bit of a laugh line over there. Yeah, it's also quite dark in that little corner, right? Look at that. Like that. I think that's enough blocking in. We've got most of the canvas covered for our upper and lower lip, and a bit of cheek and nose we can see. So I think what I can do now is we can actually start blending those guys into each other. So I've cleaned my brush. I've got a clean dry brush now. I haven't washed it. I've just wiped it on the kitchen roll until most of the paint is off. Like that. And now I'm going to just blend adjacent colors into each other. Light little tapping motion. Now often when you've done this, you're probably going to find you're 80% there. But now remember, you lose your lightest lights and you lose your darkest darks. So you always have to go back and refine. So once you've done finished with this blending here, now then it is the perfect time. You've got to stand back and just make sure that what you've done is correct and in the right places. You'll be quite amazed at how you can judge these things wrong as well. Ask me, I know, with me having to sit here, paint from the side, you get all sorts of little perspective problems. It's perfect from my angle, but obviously from the correct angle, it's not necessarily in the right place. Until you stand back and you notice, oh dear, Got the perspective a little wrong there. If you find your brush is becoming too full of paint and it's mixing, just give your brush a good solid wipe on your kitchen roll again. And then Dennis is checking the chat box, so if you do have questions, just pop them in there, and then either I'll answer them, or maybe I'll even let him have a chat to you. You don't have to listen to just my voice the whole time. Pat is saying, looking at Renoir stuff, the colors aren't that accurate. It's difficult to say, Pat, because you obviously haven't now seen the model or his reference picture that he worked from. So, yeah, like I say, everybody's skin tones are different, so they could be accurate for all we know. Alright, so Trans-Trace is a wax-free graphite tracing paper that you can get in red, yellow, blue graphite and white. Okay. Well, thanks for that little tip, John. I'll definitely have a Google on that one after the class. Always like to learn new stuff. I'm using absolutely no medium in the paint. I've mixed it straight out the tube. On the odd occasion, I will add medium if I find that my paint out of the tube is a bit too thick. Then yeah, I will add medium. But generally, no, I'm not a big. You'll actually find this as you go along with me. I'm not a big medium user. I tend to use medium actually very infrequently. Dennis is having a good giggle. Why are you having a giggle? Dennis says he uses medium a lot. So you see, we're all different. Yeah, he uses it a lot to get his paint to dry faster. Yeah, I'm not too worried about how quickly or slowly my paint will dry. So I'm more worried about the consistency of the paint. And if I'm happy with the consistency, then that's all that's important to me. And I find usually for me, for most applications, the consistency is correct straight out the tube. So now that I've blended the most of the paint in, what I'm going to do is start refining. If you can zoom out to see both of those for me, please. I think I've got the basic shadings are in at the moment. So yeah, in other words, my planes are there where I need them to be. But now I'm looking for details. So now I'm going to look at little areas like that. You see that little dent over there by the corner of the mouth? Now I'm going to look carefully to see what does that little dent do. I did put in this initial color over here. So now I'm going to take a look. It's darker on this little edge over there and it goes lighter. In other words, it's almost a found line over there and it becomes a lost line. So I'm going to keep it sharp in this corner and I'm going to blend that little piece away there. And it blends away in this direction too. And then just above it, you've got a lighter little area over there. It's picking up some more sunlight. And it goes out like that. So once you've got your basics in, after that, everything is just fine tuning to get it more and more looking like the way it does on your reference picture. And this is where your baking paper is absolutely crucial to make sure that you now get that little feature in exactly the correct place. So keep checking yourself. Keep checking yourself. So this little piece over here, a little bit more of a quick little shading over there. And again, that little piece there becomes a lost line there eventually. And even this line over here is not 100% sharp, slightly lost. So I'm going to very gently, the lightest touch, just lightly rub over it, and then here where I want it to disappear and become a lost line, I'll just rub more and more and more over it until it does, until my line's gone. More little fine tuning. I'm now obviously trying to work as fast as I can. In using yours, you must take your time. Work a lot slower than what I am here. I'm almost more interested in just getting the canvas all covered and so that you can start to see the likeness. For me, it's more important that you see the techniques and everything than me trying to get the perfect final product. If you need to, don't forget to go over to finer and smaller brushes as well. Tony is asking, what are my thoughts on painting with an acrylic underpainting for a tonal reference and accuracy, and then overlaying with oils? Yeah, for sure you can do that. I just find that, as you can see, laying that down, doing that quick little undertone painting, it really doesn't take very long. It's the fine tuning that takes long, right? So, yeah, you can underpaint like that, but I don't know. Me personally, I don't see a huge benefit in doing that. You're not going to score any time because it goes so quick anyway. I don't want to spend too much time on the nose, because that's actually not quite what we're painting today. So all I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of so we can get a feel for the nose. Because that does help place the nose and get the upper lip right with all these cast shadows and stuff that are falling in. Alright, here by the fulcrum. Let's take a look at the fulcrum quickly. We've got a little higher piece over there. And we've got a higher piece over there. They tend to be lighter. So look out for that little extra lightness over here. And that lightness tends to, our sun in this painting is coming from that side. But you'll find that your upper lip is not flat like this. It's rotated at an angle like that. And because of that, here's the nose covering this area, so you've got that darker little cast shadow and stuff. So the tip of the lip, maybe go over to here. The tip of the lip over here tends to curl up a little bit, because and it's lighter because A, it's getting more light, but B, where it meets the actual protruding lips themselves, it's got to curl up to meet the top lip. You'll always find that little area tends to be brighter. So look for that on your subject, because sometimes this little lighter area here is very subtle, you can't even see it, and sometimes it's actually quite bright. So use that as one of your little reference points to get your likeness right. How prominent is this little lighter area on the top of the lip? Then with the fulcrum itself, take a look to see how deep is this fulcrum over here. Now, the deeper it is, the bigger the contrast you've got to make. It's as simple as that. The bigger the contrast, the deeper it is. Okay, say something wrong there. So see how easy it is to lose a line? So without that baking paper, there's no way of correcting it. Because those lines are long gone. I've forgotten that I had lines there already. Okay, Pat is saying I have a hard time going over my strokes because the weave shows. Your canvases are just a little bit rough, Pat. No, but then your weaves, then Dennis is saying Pat is maybe using too thick, but I don't think it's the case, because Yeah, if you use thick paint, then your weave wouldn't show. It would be covered by the thickness of the paint. A little shadow over there as well. First on that side of the, and this little dark over here against that light helps lift up that fulcrum and helps push this down and give it an angle. And again, it's also part of the cast shadow from the nose. Seeing the weave is sort of normal. That's why you're using a canvas and not a flat, smooth board. So yeah, seeing the canvas and seeing the brush strokes, that's all normal. That's oil painting, guys. Don't be scared to use chunky canvases or nice thick brush strokes. You want that. That's what the people like. If they wanted smooth paintings, they would go for watercolors. Absolutely no reason to worry about seeing brush strokes. Alright, Dennis is telling me we've got another 25 minutes, so that means I need to get a move on. I think you guys are getting a good feel for how I'm doing this. Just keep working on my contrasts and getting the right tonal values correct. I just want to get this underside of the chin to start curling under. Just to get that perspective correct there, and then what we'll do is we'll move on to the lips themselves. They go pretty quick, so not too much work there. Yeah, I'm just sort of judging him because I can't see the bottom of his chin on the actual photograph. I'm just eyeballing it in, just judging it. That's good enough for me. Alrighty, so now let's move on to the lips. So now I'm going to use my three colors that I've used for the lips. Again, I haven't washed my brush. I'm just wiping the worst off. Pat is asking maybe it's the coffee that I drink. Yeah, maybe it is, Pat. Who knows, eh? Alright. So remember your planes when you're blocking in your lips. The top and the bottom lip. Just remember those planes. So I've got this color running around here again. Like I said before, just to repeat it now that we're working in that area is don't worry about getting, if your lips initially look like lipstick because of these hard lines here, it's quite alright. It's quite normal at this stage. It's more important that we just get that shape correct, and from there we can soften the shape. But we first need to get that shape correct. So I put this disappears into there. here you've got, this is sort of your main color over here. Now your top lip is flat and your bottom lip is like a tube. So we have to do each one of them differently. And obviously they're pointing in different directions to the sun. Inside of the lip, we want that to look like it's at an angle coming forward like this. So we're going to darken it here on the inside. Alright, Dennis is saying you guys want to see my palettes, and that's 100% correct. Shortly we will have 2 cameras, so we'll go, that's why we bought the 2 monitors, so that Dennis can inside flip between a fixed picture of the palette and the painting itself. Right, so this here is my main color for the lips. This here is my darker shadowy color, and this is the darkest value that I could find in the corner of the mouth. So 1, 2, 3 colors. Okay. So I'm using the darker one now, not the very darkest, my darker shadow color. Popping that in on the inside of the top lip, and then I'm going to blend them into each other. Now again, remember this is a plane and that's a plane, so I see this plane here is darker than the other one. I'm putting more of the darker in there. So that's how I'm going to get my tonal values correct. So when I do blend them in, I still have one side lighter and the one side darker. So there's physically more darker painting. Okay. Too much work to do on the top lip, simply because it's flat. So it's just a nice quick little shading. All we're trying to get is that just a little bit of a looking in effect there. Alrighty. Now you'll notice if you look at the reference photo, the line over here where these two meet is a soft line. So it's not a hard line. The only time you're going to get that a hard line is when the person is wearing lipstick. So right in the end, when you put in this line over here, is come back in with just a soft number 4 round, just a little fine liner, and just with a feather-like touch, just soften that little edge over there. Just looking into each other. Yeah, let's get a bit of a highlight. If I need it to work in, you'll see I haven't. So that's fine. If you see you've missed the color or the tonal value is not correct, stop, fix it. As I'm painting, I'm constantly checking where I've worked before, because you'll also see, well, as you work, you're establishing new contrasts and new tonal values, which puts all the previous ones more into context. So, you know, Pat was complaining that he finds it overworking a little bit, but you know what, Pat, sometimes with like with this, you do have to just, as you work, you are revisiting some of your previous areas that you painted in. That is quite normal. Val says she's enjoying watching this, and she thinks I'm having way too much fun. Alright, well Val, there you have it. You've now just nominated yourself to give our model a name. At the moment the top name is Henry, so There's your opportunity to also have some fun. Dennis is suggesting funny, Henry. Alright, let's go back to my palette again quickly, please. Because my bottom lip is rounded like this, like a tube, right? I've got my basic color, which is this. Now I need to get him to go in and out like that as well. So I'm going to take, when the dominant color there is alizarin crimson, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I'm going to work him into just a little area over here, just a corner. So again, I'm making myself an impromptu mix of that color, but just a little bit redder version, because that's, I see on my reference photo it is a little bit redder. So I'm picking up a redder version, and that's going to give me this inside and the outside little edges over here. Some more. And then as it goes around into the corners, it's going to gradually darken up. So there I'll start picking up my shadow color. Now that I'm basically finished with that color, I might as well just quickly blend the colors into each other. There I go. What that's done is that's now given me my cube effect. Okay, now that I've put those, I'm starting to put these darker colors in the corner of the mouth. Can you see how the mouth is actually starting to round off? Now I'm going over to my darkest one. My darkest of the three mixes, and I'm getting this little corner here right. Nice and dark in there. And the minute I put these darks in, now you're suddenly going to start seeing depth. You're going to start looking into that mouth. Really sharp against the tips over there. And there's one of my few frown lines. I'll get that nice and dark. It fades away so you can sort of see a little bit of the inside of the lip over here. Start with the corner over there. Slightly up. And guys, keep checking yourself with your with your reference picture to make sure you get your lines right. And same as before, what you're going to do is soften this line over here. Where the bottom lip and the lower lip meet. And that just gives you that rounding of where they meet each other. So the shapes conform to meet each other. Alrighty, I think let's move on to the teeth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash my brush. Okay, Pat is saying when you're dulling a color already on canvas, you kind of anticipate the blend by overcompensating with a very dark color. Pat, yes, you would tend to have to go a little bit darker, say 2 shades darker if you need to darken up your color. Alright, let's quickly zoom over to the palette because we haven't mixed those colors. We haven't explained how to mix those colors yet. Zoom out so you can see me as well. Alright guys, when it comes to painting teeth, here is the biggest mistake the guys make. Is they battle to get the rounding, to get your teeth to have dimension in them. So the secret there is that your teeth are not white. So I hate to be the one to break it to you, but your teeth are yellow and brown, okay? They're not white. If your teeth were white, you would have had to spend $20,000 to go to an orthodontist and you have to put a special veneer over your teeth. That's what these movie stars and stuff do. They have a veneer put over their teeth to make it look spider white like that. And then even if you are painting a model with teeth like that, those teeth aren't white. They're grey. So, you can come hell or high water, you can't get white teeth. So don't even try and paint white teeth. So what I want you to do is look at your model and take a look really carefully. Now, to see that underlying color. Now, the way you do that is to look past the reflections. Because you'll notice because your teeth are wet, you've got reflections in the teeth, and those reflections are white. Okay. So if you don't use your yellows and browns in your teeth color, you don't get the contrast that you need to enable you to add that little reflection. And it's that little reflection that makes your teeth look realistic. Alright, so let's go over to my canvas and I'll show you what I've done. I took a look at my model and I looked past that reflection color and I found he had the yellow in his teeth was actually a bit of a browny color. So you know what I've actually been able to use here? I took my white and added just a touch of burnt sienna into it. And that's given me that. Then, I've also mixed a bit of a grey over here, but as you can see, I originally mixed it, but I never used it in my sample, so what the heck, I'm not going to use it again. What I actually did find that I ended up using is, here with the mouth color, you see you've got this darkest color that we mixed for the deep shadow inside the mouth. Now that's not black. It was like a dark, mauvey purple kind of a color. So that there is what I ended up using to shadow it. And that gave me actually a better rendition than my mixed grey. Now, I suspect that's because your teeth are white. Now remember, white always reflects the colors around it. So that is that inside color of the mouth, which is not black as it is. So the teeth and the shadow areas is reflecting that inside color of the mouth. Okay. Alright, now we can go back over to our reference photo again, please. And my coffee's almost cold. That's terrible. Yeah, that still tastes good. You see your mouth isn't flat, right? They're round. Each one of these teeth is sitting at his own angle. So you've got to take a look at the general tonal value. Again, keep looking past those reflections, right? This tooth here is pointing a lot towards the light. Less, 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 less. Okay? Now, also you have that thing of your teeth are receding into the mouth. So always, it doesn't matter which angle you're looking at it from. These back teeth are always dark. You can do what you want to, they're always dark. So get that tonal value right. And that's what you're initially going to do. Just blocking the tonal value of each tooth. Now, usually if the guy's got nice evenly colored teeth, what you'll be able to do, it's almost just a basic shading, except it's not one black color. You're going to have to do a few little zigzags to get around the gums. So I'm going to take my initial base color, and that base color I mixed from the front tooth, the bright one. I'm going to block that tooth in. And the next ones that I can see that are roughly that color as well. And then as I go along, and I want to get them darker, I'm going to gradually just pick up some of this inside of the mouth color. And just add it. Quick little impromptu mixes. Yeah. As we are going to have to go a little bit over time today, so I hope I'm not intruding too much on your time. If you do have to go, I understand, and just catch up this last little piece on the replay. Now you see how I'm going darker and darker as I go around. What I'll do just to save us some time is I'm going to complete just say 3 or 4 teeth, and then we'll go back to my reference picture that I did for the manual to see the finished product, and that'll give you a good idea. And you'll still get the full picture at the end of the day. Yes, you see how I'm going darker and darker and darker, and I'm gradually getting myself that looking in effect already of the mouth. Then what you're going to do is you're going to look carefully at each one of those teeth. And looking past the reflections, you're going to see which side of it is lighter and which side of it is darker. Now, the way it works is your teeth aren't flat, right? They sort of curve out onto the outside of the tooth. Maybe let's go to the reference photo, please. Yes. This tooth may be flat over here, right? But as it gets to the edge, it sort of curls in. And as they curl in, and there where they touch, you see you tend to get that little V effect like I was demonstrating earlier with my hands. So that little V effect that you get over there is that darkening. So you're now going to take each one of those teeth and look for that little V effect. Now depending on where it is in the mouth, it's going to depend on how prominent they are. And how dark you need to make that little lost line over there. Yeah, they're quite dark, so that's why I'm going to do this one to really give you that extra contrast. You don't have to squint to see it like you would have over there. So obviously, it can become quite dark over here, but when you get over here, it can be very subtle sometimes. Very, very subtle. Especially if the light is shining directly into that view, then it can be very subtle. You see how I'm reducing the contrast and things as I come out. Often you'll find if you're looking carefully at each tooth, because now that you know where to look out for it, you'll find there's little different areas on each tooth that are actually darker and lighter. So then you can paint those little areas in. Now that you know to look out for them, you'll be surprised. They suddenly become easier to spot. I'm going to very quick little shading over there like that, just to give you a feel for each one. Then what you're going to do is put in the gum color. So I'm using exactly the same colors as for the lips. That's going to give you your gums. So I'll block them in. So let's do side 3 or 4 here. Now, as I'm going around, remember you've got that looking in effect. So these guys are gradually becoming darker. Then your gums aren't flat either. They also got shape to them. So they'll also get their own quick little shading. It's usually not very prominent, so it's quite subtle. A little shading, and that just also makes them round off as well. Now once you put your gums in, then what you do is just gently soften that line, just the absolute tiniest little tip of the brush. Just soften that line. It's not a long shading. So standing back, it will still look like a hard line, but right here, pull up close, it's a soft line. It just gives you that thinning of the skin effect. But if you don't stand in front of the mirror, you'll actually notice it. Your skin seems to get thinner as it meets the tooth. Alright, then we're going to use the darkest value that we mix to the inside of the mouth, and then we're going to edge off your teeth like this. Here on the edges of the teeth, you'll notice that you've actually got a sharp line, because now you've got distance between the front teeth and the inside of the mouth, right? So there you can get a nice sharp line over there. And it's those nice dark that gives you that looking in effect. Then what I do is, just to complete this rounding over here, because we know our lip doesn't stop in a corner over there, right? I'll just soften this little edge over here as well. Just letting gently blend. Again, you don't want to get rid of that line too much. Very quick, very quick blending. Exactly the same as what we did with the gums. Just to soften them up. Here comes one of the tricks to creating that depth in your mouth, and that is, because your top lip juts out, it throws a shadow on your teeth and on your gums. We're going to come back in and we're going to add a little shadow on top of each one of those teeth. What that's going to do is it's going to lift up your top lip and give you depth. And also add that shadow onto each of your little gum triangles as well, just using the shadow color for the gums. And then the final little piece of the puzzle is getting those little reflections in your teeth. So we're going to use a pure white. And now because you haven't used any white over there, when you start adding these little reflections in, you're actually going to see them. Okay. Now I found that when you're doing these reflections, just keep them subtle, just find the most prominent ones and just quickly pop them in. And then again, these little reflections are going to become darker as you're going to there. So there, you're going to use a slightly darker version. Darker in this corner. Over there. Good. Yeah, that's fine. Overall, this over here. Thank you. Yes, you can have a little reflection there, but not as bright. So obviously less and less light can get in there. Okay. So I think let's go over to my completed one, so that you can get the overall picture when it's been a little bit more refined than this. There we go. Okay, so can you see those little shadows over there? And this shading in here has helped define the top lip, make it come forward. And then the subtle little, or those little, because you've got the color, those little white reflections, make it stand out nicely. These little bottom teeth over here are usually not very prominent, because they're inside the mouth, they're in shadow. So often I just take a little bit of my tooth color, almost like whatever I've used over here, and I just find those little highlights and I just suggest them. And that is all there is to painting mouths. It's a lot of work, and I know there's a lot of things that you need to sort of remember, but you'll find once you've done a mouth 2 or 3 or 4 times, it becomes a lot easier because you sort of know what to look out for. Okay. I'm going to have a quick look here by the chat box and see if I can answer 1 or 2 questions before I let you go. But obviously I don't want to go too far over time. Okay. Okay, Tony's saying I need to discipline myself to squint my eyes to see tonal values, or print black and white or sepia reference pictures. Yes. If you're battling to see your tonal values, please make prints, make black and white prints. Just set your printer onto grayscale and fire off a black and white. That's the easiest way of teaching yourself to see tonal values, because you'll find that the color confuses your eye. So it takes a lot of practice to be able to see the tonal value behind the actual color. So by making a black and white print, you're making your life a lot easier. So take as you're painting, put the black and white and the color right next to each other. Print them out exactly the same size, so that you've got the same scale. Ideally, you'd actually print them out exactly the same size as what you're painting as well. So all 3 are exactly the same size. then it becomes much easier to judge the tonal values and the colors and get them in the correct places as well. Oscar, yes, I like Oscar. That's a, hey, Oscar. Karen, you are brilliant. Oscar, I love that name. And Jester's also not too bad, eh? Alright, practicing, okay, I've already answered that question. Oscar the Jester. Okay, let's see. I completed a painting that people said was too light or too dark, but it had partly oxidized. Did you add medium to every color to redo it to prevent cracking? So only if it's cracking, throw it away. There's nothing you can do. You can't fix a cracked painting. It's just going to continue cracking because you could scrape all your paint off or sand it down or something, but in my experience, you can't fix a cracked painting. Just in future, stick to those rules of pat over lean. Okay, make sure your underpainting is dry before you paint the next one. If it's not, make sure you've added more oil to it so that your top layer is more flexible than the under layer. But once it's cracked, it's cracked. I've got paintings here that are cracked. I can do nothing about them because I didn't wait until the underpainting is dry. Sorry. Okay, Val is saying, I tend to shy away from shading the teeth that much when drawing. Always afraid of making them too dark. As you say, it needs a very subtle effect and more practice. If you found that underlying color, then you know your brightest tooth is that underlying color. Everything from there, as it goes around, inside the mouth will get darker and darker and darker and essentially grayer and grayer. So, don't be shy to get some contrast in your teeth because it's that contrast as it goes around and into the mouth that gives you that depth, that looking in effect that you want to get to look inside your mouth to show you that there's the tongue and whatnot's in the back there. Okay. And to sort of also it helps to separate your teeth and make them go in behind the teeth. Alright, I'm just having a quick read again. In fact, it's saying when you're adding those very subtle hints of shadow on the teeth, can you use a dark color but a very light touch of the brush as an alternative to using the correct shade? No, use the right shade, guys. Rather, if you just use any old dark color, aren't you sort of just cutting a corner? Rather take your time, get the right color, because I mean, we've only used, let's see, 7 odd mixes in this whole painting, so it's rather use the right color. Then you know you're going to get that true likeness, because once you start cutting those little corners, then on little things you start cutting the corners on big things, and eventually you start cutting the corners everywhere, and then you've lost that whole effect of trying to create the realistic effect. So no, let's rather use the right colors in the right places, guys. It's just good practice, isn't it? Okay. Alright, here's an awesome question. Kurgi is saying, I usually start with the lips. So this is very interesting. A lot of people start from, you'll actually see I've mentioned it in the notes, they'll start from the back and you work your way forward like we normally do, right? I don't. I tend to work from the outside, or the outer lips, and then the main lips themselves, and then the teeth, and then the dark on the inside. My reason for doing that is I don't want to dirty my teeth. So if I had to paint all my teeth all nice and pearly and shiny and depth and everything, now I come back in start painting the lips. Because you're doing all these broad shadings and big brushing work, it's so easy to just zip and you go over your tooth. And the minute you've got that pink inside that tooth, it's really quite a battle to lift it out again. You almost have to use tips. So then you have to pretty much repaint that tooth. And I don't know, to me that just seems like double work. So I'd rather leave that white, because I know white, it discolors so quickly. I leave the white till last, and then right at the end, because that black is a found line, I'll put that black in right at the end, because I know then there's no way that I can brush over it by mistake. Marion is asking, did you start with 5 tones for painting around the area of the mouth? Yes, I mixed 4 to 5. I've physically used, in the end of the day, I've used 5 different tones there. Marion, if you're getting confused with the different tones and stuff, what you need to remember, the thing that tells you how many colors to mix is how many planes you have got. So if you've got, let's say you're painting, say a nose, you've got 1, 2, 3 planes, right? If you want to paint this area, then you need 1, 2, 3 colors. But now with your mouth, you've got a lot more planes. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you've got here on the furrow, which is another even darker, so it's 5. So you've got to look for all those distinct tonal values. So break them up into ranges. The flatter the object, the less amount of tonal value changes you're going to get. So if it's just a little like this, you can do 1, 2, it will be good enough. That shading in between will give you that. But the more round and the more molding you've got, the more depth you need to show, the bigger your contrasts, and the more amount of colors you're going to need to show that. Because you can't just suddenly start with a white and mix a black in. You're not going to get your colors in between, so you need to have some of those in between colors as well. Okay, Claude says Renoir called, he wants his easel back. Good night. Alright, good night Claude. You have a good evening. To say, just if you do lose these last few minutes and you have to go, I understand. I just want to make sure everybody has their questions answered. So have a good evening. You'll catch it on the replay. Marion, did I answer your question? Yes, Marion says I did answer a question. That's great. Okay, guys, I've got one more question. I noticed that on very fine creases of the face, you leave a thin blank canvas area and butt up the 2 adjacent values to actually create a fine line. Can you talk about that for a second? Alright. Let's quickly go over to here. I'm presuming you're talking like about this area over here, Pat. So what I would do is like there and over here. I would bring these 2 colors first next to each other. In other words, I'll make them first a found line, make them a sharp edge. And then I'd look at my reference material and take a look how soft do I then eventually need to blend them into each other. Because with the face, at some points you have to blend them in more, and at some points you have to blend them in less. So if you take a look over here, you see I've got, this is a much more pronounced, this little furrow area over here. Where there, that furrow is gradually disappearing on you. It's getting shallower and shallower and shallower. So the more pronounced and the more distance I've got over there, if it eventually folds over so that I've got a little bit of distance in there that I can't see, I know it needs to be a found line. So then I'll keep those 2 lines just touching each other like that. I'm going to work it more and more and more over there until eventually that line disappears on me if necessary. And that's how I get the depth. So that's how, because there's a lost line, I've got no depth. As it comes, it becomes more and more sharper and sharper. In other words, more and more of a found line. It's getting more and more depth and getting higher and higher off each other. You see that? So that's why I do that. I first get them a sharp line, I get my depth, and then I see how much of that depth do I need to get rid of. Okay guys, I think that seems to be all the questions for today. So, from my side, Have a great week. Let me quickly pop in the link for the handout. Again, please be very patient with the handout. It's a big one. It's 45 megs, which means your paste that in there. Which means your manual is sitting at over 220 pages at the moment. Lillian is asking, she says she's using student grade oils. Is there any advantage to using a better grade? Yes. Lillian, if you watched my webinar on the equipment, I've explained that in quite detail over there. Basically the difference is your student quality has got a lot less pigment in it because it doesn't need to last long. So the staying power of the pigment doesn't need to last for centuries. So they've just added enough in for it to give color. So if you're using student quality, it's just use them for practices and stuff like you're doing here, but please don't sell any of those paintings because they're going to fade very quickly. Dennis is aching to tell me something. Yes. That's right. Okay, so Dennis is also just adding to that is because you've got more pigment in your artist quality paint than your student quality paint, you've got a lot more because the pigment is physically denser in the paint. You've got a lot stronger color. So you'll also find that with the student paints, you often get muddy colors because you've got to throw so much of your paint in. Yes, you've got a lot more covering power because there's more pigment in your artist quality. If you're serious about your art, just look out. Don't buy student quality. Stick with the real thing. Then your proper top quality artist quality paint. And you know you've got the correct amount of pigments in there, and your finished product could end up being a masterpiece and it'll last for centuries, as opposed to if you've done a masterpiece from student paints, then you've got a problem. So, yeah, I'd rather spend, you know what, there's such a small difference in the paint between student and artist quality that it's worth your while to stick with the artist quality. Yes, there's a nice little Afrikaans saying for that, obviously you want to if I do say it, but it basically boils down to is buying cheap is actually buying expensive. Does that make sense? Because you end up, let's say you buy a cheap microwave and it breaks in a week, you've got to buy another one, so you might as well have bought the expensive one. It boils down to that. Here's an interesting question which I actually don't know the answer to. I bought paint that was listed as graduate. Is this the same as student paint? Something that to me tells me that would be an artist quality, but I don't know. Sorry, I just want to repeat this for Dennis. I bought paint that was listed as graduate. Is this the same as student paint? Never heard of that. Something just sounds a little bit iffy to me on that one. I don't know. I would class to be graduate. I would sort of put that in between artists and true quality. I don't know. I'm just fishing for answers here because I don't know the answer to that one. I'm sorry. We'll have to do a Google on that one. I'll Google it and we'll see what we can come up with for you as an answer on the forum. Okay, Valweb says your teeth shouldn't look like corn anymore. Well, that's great. I hope not. If you make them too yellow, then obviously they will look like corn. John is asking what paint am I using on the show. I'm presuming you're speaking about what brand. Let's see. I've got some Dalarani Georgian here. Yeah, I've got some Marie's. Yeah. I buy any paint. I don't use one specific brand that I recommend. The brand I did recommend was our own personal brand in South Africa, but since we've immigrated, we don't make that anymore. So yeah, I buy whatever colors I find work well. For example, the Georgian ones I found their cadmium red was terrible, so I don't use that. I use the I use the Winsor & Newton one now. So I haven't got one specific brand. I make sure it's artist quality, and I buy one that I'm happy with. Each one, everybody's got their own little preferences for that. Val is asking, are you going to finish the teeth for the replay? For you, I'll finish the teeth for the replay. The Georgians are made by Darla and Rowney. Yes. Alright guys, have you got the link for the download? You happy with that? I will, as usual, I will email you guys with the link, just to make sure that everybody has got it, because I know not everybody gets to the live class. A lot of people are working and stuff, so they watch the replay. So, from my side, have an awesome week. In the manual, you'll see there are some extra, at the back there is some references. Pick one or two of those mouths and paint them and pop them on the forum. Let's give you some feedback and see how it goes with your mouths. Good luck. I'll see you through the week on the forum and next week. Cheerio. Alrighty, so the class is over. Dennis has gone home. It's just me and the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the teeth, because I did promise Val I'll do that. So let's get on and do that quickly. I've blocked these guys in just with their basic tooth color, and all I'm going to do is just add some shadings to them, just to give them their shape. Remember your little shadow underneath the teeth, or where the lips and the teeth meet. Remember to add that little shadow over there. Because these guys are lighter than those ones over there, I'm going to gradually use less and less of a contrast between the light one and the dark one. So I'll take this darkest tooth inside mouth color here and add it to my tooth color. Get it lighter and lighter, I'm adding more and more tooth color and less of the actual inside of the mouth color. Now look out for these contrasts. As you do a few teeth, you'll find that it becomes easier and easier to spot these small little differences. And that's going to give you this little V effect in between the teeth. Sometimes they're a little sharper than others, sometimes they're softer. Look out for them, just keep them all shaded in. That's over there. That seems reasonably good. Alright, I think let's take this darkest inside mouth color again and complete the area in between the teeth. Again, don't forget, this is all a found line, so nice and sharp. Now you'll also see that the teeth, this edge over here, they're not perfectly straight. They sometimes got little wiggles and squiggles to them. Work those little squiggles in, that's fine. It's 100% normal. As I go along, I'm also going to keep checking with my tracing paper. There, I'm softening this edge again. I don't want a perfectly hard line over there. Alright, now to suggest these inside teeth over here, I'm again going to just pick up a little bit. I've still got the darkest inside mouth color on my brush, so I haven't washed it. And I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the teeth color to mix up a mid-tone, and then I'm just going to eyeball them in because they're not really prominent. Just going to give myself, looking for those little highlights on the tooth itself, like you can see over here. getting them correct is by judging them from the top teeth. Just a few little dabs and dashes, and that's all it is, eh? Alright, I see the one tooth's shape is a little bit off, so I'm going to just slightly adjust him. That's this tooth over here. He seems to come down a bit longer and overlap the lip. He actually comes on and touches the lip over there. Now, because I've got all this other colour here to get my white still nice and neat, I'm having to use quite a bit of paint there, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like to do my teeth first. Because if you lose that colour, you really battle afterwards to keep it clean. There's a little bit of the lip colour as he's biting that lip over there. Just like that. And here's a little bit of gum that's missing there, so let's put that in. And these little gum pieces help you define the teeth. You see how the minute I put that in, that separated those teeth from each other? So now they're not joined as one single item anymore. Soften the line. And right at the end, come back in with your white and see if you can find those little reflections. So just a few little dabs of white. There, see there, and there. So these reflections can be actually quite thick paint sometimes. That's fine. So as we said earlier, your white discolors really, really quickly. So if you have to use quite a light or quite a lot of white to get those reflections in, that's fine. And also, don't overdo the reflections. Just a few. Easy does it. Less is more in this case. Darken this edge up just a little bit more, just to get some extra height of that lip over there. Like that. Well, there we go. There's some lovely sparkly teeth, eh? Not so difficult after all. Alright. Now what we want to do is to show those cracks in the lip. I'm going to take some of my lip colour and I'm going to add white to it. And that's going to give me a reflection colour on this top lip over here. So now to put those cracks in, you take your lighter reflection colour and look carefully at these angles. And you're going to put them in along that angle over there. Like this. So you'll notice here it will curve like that, like that, like that, and as it comes around here, it's gradually going to straighten out. So the brightest part would tend to be around over here. Remember, as we go into the corners of the mouth, it darkens up. So only put these in here in the brightest areas. Now because this guy's smiling, his lips have flattened out, so there's not too many real visible cracks. So I'm having to be very subtle with it. If you find your subject has got more prominent cracks, then what you're going to do is you'll put these lines in like that. Then you're going to come back in with a darker version. So maybe what I'll do just for the demo's sake is I'll darken up some of those to make his cracks more prominent. So now I'll pick up the darker version of the lip color like we used over there and over there. So I've added more crimson to my original lip mix. And right next to the highlight, you've got a shadow. So because that crack is, you can say, dented in, you're going to have your highlights and your shadows, same as what we've got with the full trim. Your highlight and your shadow are going to swap around. So my sun's coming from this side, so if I've got a highlight here, I've got to put my shadow basically on the sun side. And it's those contrasts there like that make these cracks look all prominent. You see that? Once you've put them in, here's a big trick that I like to do, is I like to just come back in with a clean dry brush and just gently, also just with an absolute tip, and just soften them in, because remember they're not hard lines, they tend to be shadings. So you're just going to soften them up, and that gives you basically a shading by softening the line, and it gives you the impression of a shading. Can't go too far in, because remember, as it goes in it shades darker. You can't go too far down, so as it goes down it also shades darker. Just on this little tip over here, and that adds that sunlight onto that bottom lip. It just makes him sparkle. And there you have it. Nice realistic looking mouth, shiny teeth, lovely rounding on the bottom lip, and our top lip is going in because we've got our shadows in place, and we've got nice depth because the corners of the mouth is dark. We've got our full trim correct, we've got the nice cast shadow that the nose throws onto the upper lip. Everything is all in place, so all we need to do now is for you to go ahead and do the same thing. Have a great week. I'll see you then.
Hey, Basket TV!